Okay. Then that part I can't label that's in the back of the mouth, where the nasal cavity and the oral cavity meet, is the pharynx, right? Alright, when it's swallowed, it goes down this little flappy tube that's been cut open, that's behind the trachea, which is the esophagus, right? And then at the bottom of the esophagus, there's a sphincter. What is that one? Okay, and that's at the top of the stomach, right?
Should that be labeled?
Not really. I might just ask you, like if you're tracing the food through the digestive system, it's it's important in the order. In the stomach, what are the stomach contents called? Rugae. No. Chyme. Yeah, and the folds are the rugae. Okay. What about when the food when it's in his mouth and in the esophagus? What is it called? The bolus. Okay. Let me see. So what about this stuff that's attached to the stomach? This membrane with all this gooey white stuff. No. This fatty stuff.
The
Greater omentum, right? Yeah. Be sure not to mix up the mesentery and the greater omentum.
What's the mesentery?
The mesentery is this membrane that holds the small intestines together, and when I let it go, it's what keeps them folded in bundles. Okay, and it's vascular. Like where this is not vascular, it's just fat. But if you pull up in the mesentery, you can see big arteries running through it. Okay. So what is the sphincter at the bottom of the stomach? Pyloric. Okay. And what's the first part of the small intestine called? Where it connects the stomach, duodenum. Right. Okay. And the pancreas, he needs to be rinsed out. But on the back of the duodenum, you can see this chunky kind of white stuff, where the membrane's not clear, but it's got this white gooey stuff. That's actually pancreas. Okay. So attached, because we talked about the lipase entering into the small intestine in the duodenum. Well, it's because it's super easy. You got the pancreas attached right there, so it doesn't have to travel far to get in there.
Pancreas is attached to the...
It's on the back side of the duodenum. Yeah. All right, and then you got all this stuff in the middle, which is jejunum, right? All right, and then the end part of the small intestine, where it connects to the large intestine, what is that one called? Ileum. Okay, and you always know where the small intestine ends and the large intestine begins, because the large intestine has this big bump that comes off of it, all right? So what's the first part of the large intestine? Okay, what's the valve between the ileum and the cecum? Ileocecal. Not bad. Okay. All right, and so when, I don't know if there's any real clear division between where it becomes cecum and where it becomes the next part, but I would say when it starts to go vertical, kind of runs parallel along the spine, I would consider this to be the colon, okay? And then you have, what's after the colon? The rectum, and then the anus, okay? The rectum and the anus, well, I can label the anus, but I don't think I'll do that. But the rectum would be kind of back in behind here.
Right?
Yeah, and then you have the other, the accessory organs. Here's the spleen. It's usually located on the left side of the cat. And I always remember it because it looks like, and it feels kind of like a tongue. Yeah, that's how I remember it. And then just below the diaphragm, and people in 221, I would label this, and they would call it the stomach. Because people take for granted that they're going to know the stomach when they see it. Make sure you know the difference between the liver and the stomach. Okay? Just don't take for granted, you know? Because I had like 2 or 3 people, and I could tell they weren't cheating because I looked at their test. I'm like, and they sit on opposite sides of the rooms. I'm like, no, they weren't cheating to get that answer. They honestly just didn't know. So, so the liver is just below the diaphragm, and you have this little green bag. And what's that? Gallbladder. And what is it filled with? Bile, right? And I think those are the accessory organs we need. I don't think there's any more.
Weren't there like some other things about
some glands?
Glands and
Let me look.
Okay.
Let me see.
There's
was
like
it
a few weird things that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do them or not. Sometimes they put stuff on that sheet that they don't actually go over.
Like even these, the
But
paratoids, all that.
the parotids. Yeah, those are all. They were with the slides, but. Oh yeah, the hepatic bile ducts. I mean, like I said, it's hard to label.
Okay.
So I probably wouldn't. And you can't really see it that well in this cat because there's all this chyme in the way.
Okay.
But normally you have the hepatic bile duct, which leads from the gallbladder to the small intestine and the duodenum where it, releases the bile. But it's such a pain in the butt to see. I would only really ask that you understand it as far as the diagram, the little drawn diagram that I give you that shows you, it has like the ampullae and everything where it goes into the small intestine.
Okay.
I don't think I could label it on the cat just because it's really hard to label. And with the salivary glands, we only have the slide, and I'm like, you know what? We always have enough slides as it is, so the only thing I would ask would be, like, if I put up a slide of a salivary gland, that you could tell me it's a salivary gland, and I might be, where would you find a salivary gland? In the oral cavity. I mean, yeah. So, I don't, that's going to be probably, hopefully, one of the easiest slides.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to make sure you know what it is when you're seeing it, like, because we have a lot of slides to do, so. Alright. So, I don't know if I could find a lower body artery cat or not. I think ours was actually pretty good.